Hello, my name is Catherine Martinez. I'm going to be talking about validity and reliability on some of the standardized tests in the chapter readings and in some of the tests that I have come across during my teaching experience. So for starters, I put under Connect, I put a picture of the Florida K through 12 standardized testing that the children are administered either once or 3 times per the school year. Then I put a picture of the ASQ, which is abbreviated for Ages and Stages questionnaire. It is based off of the child's age, and it does explore different ages. So for instance, a child that is 8 months is going to have an ASQ particular to his age. Same as for a child that is 5 years old, they will have an ASQ specific to their age. And then the last photo that I put was of the Renaissance Star Early Literacy Assessment. And what is cool about this particular picture is that it does describe what the children are tested on during their assessment of STAR. So that is for Connect. For Extend, I did put a picture of, this isn't the identical progress monitoring tool that I use for my students as far as a performance assessment, but it's almost identical. It is missing some parts. Mine is similar to this, except it has more spaces for dates because I do assess the children with this specific tool more than once a year during the school year. So I do it about 3 times. So their first 30 days of school, actually a lot less. So first 30 days is STAR testing. The first maybe 2 weeks, I try to dedicate some time to doing this specific tool so that I can get a baseline of where everybody is at and how I can adjust my lesson plans to fit everybody's needs. And then I do it again in the springtime, so about February, and then right before school lets out for a winter break, and then again in February or March. You'd be surprised how much kids will forget during a really fun-filled vacation break. So I try to get a quick little baseline again of where they're at after, post-vacation time, so that it gives me a better gauge of what to do next for the second half of the school year to the end. For Connect, I will go back for Connect. Something that validity and reliability wise, the purpose, for instance, of what I was familiar with before going into the readings was the STAR Early Literacy assessment tool powered by Renaissance. And my school was actually a participant of the pilot program for 2 years prior to FAST. Florida's assessment of student thinking rolled out according to the BEST standards. So I thought it was really, really cool. When we had the opportunity to jump on that, we totally did, because I felt it would give my students a leg up on bridging that gap between VPK and actual public school, like, kindergarten. It really did help them a lot. I could tell that incorporating more of a technology-based, I guess, assessment into the classroom versus an oral flip chart or flip book got their attention a lot more. And that's something I was able to connect to while I was doing this, while I did the readings and whatnot. I thought it was really, really cool. The validity wise, it really did meet its purpose, and its intention for what it is. It was to measure specific phonological awareness standard, early numeracy, and things like that. And And it totally validated those points. And I thought it was great because it measured specifically what they needed. And if they did an answer correctly, well, then, it gave them a more difficult one. So as far as that, it was completely validated and it fulfilled its purpose, in my opinion, going through that for the past 2 years with my students and this current school year as well. When it comes to reliability, however, I do think that some kids are better test takers than others, because what I am finding now on our second progress monitoring period is that one of my smartest kids in the class, very, very smart, is testing very low. But when they are tested differently in a more engaging manner versus just sitting in front of a screen and clicking answers, they just are not engaged. It does not click with them. It just doesn't, for some reason. And, we all know that children, or people in general, everybody's a different type of test taker, but it does not cater to her specific needs or her learning style, not in the least. So she's scoring low on the STAR, but great in other areas of our classroom. So as far as reliability, sometimes the scoring is a little bit difficult. It is difficult for parents to understand. So you definitely have to read the parent letter and whatnot to explain it to them. But it's a challenging one for sure. ASQs, we've always used them in childcare, for early childhood education. What I have found challenging with that is for my preemies. I have had a handful of preemies through the years I've been working at my school, and I don't feel like it always caters to their delay, their needs, their background. So that can also, that's something that I thought about too for reliability. It doesn't always come across to give you the results that you were hoping to get, because you see them every day. So it's a little bit different. Does it serve a good purpose as far as validity? Yes, it can. But every child is different. And that's something that I in the readings that it mentions. It's exactly that. It's hard to gauge where an infant or toddler is, because they are constantly changing. Their physical development is constantly, morphing or evolving. So it's hard to gauge where they're really at. And an ASQ is great, but in a month or so, it's going to change again. So it really varies. What I did not know that I made a connection to was the other Florida standardized testing that they do, which measure great parts of their academic understanding, civics, science. Those are great. I did not, from doing a little more digging, besides the readings and the content in class, was that they also have testing for for English language learners. And it brought me back to reflecting on what that might have looked like for me when I first immigrated to this country. And it was just a flip chart kind of test, but testing in general has evolved as well. So that was something really interesting as I made those connections. For extending, or for the extended part of this assignment, new ideas that, came to me while I was reading this was how I can improve my progress monitoring tool to fit every child. Because like I explained before, I do have a student who is very bright but testing very low. I do have another student who I strongly believe has a learning disability, but whose parent has become a little bit hesitant of any further evaluating or testing because of her experience with the screening organization. So it's been a little bit challenging, and finding the best assessment tool for monitoring their academic progress is something that, while I looked into the content, made me reflect on possibly having to adjust several of these for several of my students. So that was something that is going to make me have to do some deep digging. As far as challenge goes, what I wish there was more of, and still really leaves me with like this uncertainty, is how we measure students who have severe behavior issues. Yes, you can send them out to, referral for screening and evaluating. And I did see that they screened them initially. And, if they see further evaluating is needed, then yes, they do that. However, I just would like something for now so that I have something besides behavior logs or observation logs to present to a family. That's where I am still a little bit, I wouldn't say confused, but mostly I'm curious about what tools can be used. I know that we can reach out to our early learning coalitions for assistance, especially their inclusion department, but sometimes it's difficult because they just give you activities that you can do, and what you want to do is give a parent so much more than that, which is something that the ASQ does do as well. So on the bottom, it tells you, give the parent activities and whatnot and the little picture, but sometimes a parent needs so much more than that. And in a classroom, you also need so much more than that. So that is my connect, extend, and challenge. I thought everything that was in the content was really interesting, but overall, I didn't realize also in reading a little more outside of the content in the course, in this chapter, was all the different types of assessments that are administered to students in Florida. So that's something else that I also found really great, the amount of things that the kids are tested on, but it's not, I didn't think personally it was very overwhelming. So kudos to Florida.